Welcome back to the Warrior Servant Leader podcast. We're going to have a blast today. The man, the myth, the legend is with us. This is going to be fun. Today's guest was a military leader, a spy catcher with the FBI, and a behavioral analysis expert. Today, Robin Dreeke is a recognized expert, author, and gifted lecturer in the art of interpersonal communication, relationship building, and the all-important trust factor. These skills are used every day in leadership, sales, human resources, all aspects of life, both business and personal. Robin, welcome to the podcast, man. We're so glad to have you on.
Thanks, Pat. Glad to be here. And the most important title out of all those things, which gave me all the skills from all those things, was Dad. I suffer proud parent syndrome. And as when you move through life and you start life thinking that it's all about the things you do and the titles and accolades as a professional, what they really give you is the skill set to be a better human being and to serve those around you even better. So yes, servant warrior. There you go.
Yeah. Well, some people, because they crack on me, cop, lawyer, teach at the collegiate level, all that kind of stuff. And I always tell them, that and 25 cents will get you a phone call to somebody that really gives a crap.
You don't take it with you.
Yeah, it's none of that stuff. But man, you have a fascinating background. So let's jump right in. U.S. Naval Academy grad, Marine Corps veteran. Would you call that the beginning of your formal leadership journey, or is there Paul Harvey, the rest of the story before you ended up in the Naval Academy that kind of put you on the path to where you're at today?
Formal leadership journey. That's a great phraseology. I love words. You with your background as well, words mean so much. And I love seeing the impact of it. And I've never had anyone frame it as formal leadership journey. And it is a journey. There's no formality between anything. It's like, I think the journey begins when you recognize you're on a journey. And my journey, and I think most of those journeys start for us when we are humbled by something. Because especially when you're younger, gregarious, outgoing, because you look at that background, it screams hard charging type A warrior, servant leader. I mean, the romantic poet warrior inside you. Yes, those things always resonated with me. And because I'm gregarious, outgoing, extroverted, popular, all those things are about self. And what happens is that when you actually hit the first true leadership moment in your life, where you actually stop solving your own problems, which is what we do when we're younger and you come up with challenges in life and no money, the things that we all have, right? And I had a lot of skills at solving my own problems, and I solved my own problems with relationships. And I was fortunate because I love building relationships. In my life arc, when I was 5 years old, I could tell you what I was going to do the rest of my life. Make friends. That's all I ever want to do, is go to school, make friends, and be good at it. And that becomes that arc. But what happened was I got very good at solving my problems. But then when I had some stumbles and falls getting through the Naval Academy, more academically than leadership-wise, because again, gregarious, outgoing, and when we're younger, the behaviors of self-centeredness and popularity are rewarded with words like, you're one of life's natural-born leaders because you're gregarious, outgoing, and you're liked. But that has nothing to do with leadership, because popularity is about self. Solving my own problems is about me. It has nothing about being egocentric or narcissistic or anything like that. It was just repetitions I had for self. So I hit the Marine Corps, and as a brand new second lieutenant, on my journey began with this moment. The winning part anyway. I had been in my unit, my squadron at Cherry Point, North Carolina. Again, gregarious, outgoing. Happy to be here. Very glad to be here. And the one thing that differentiates someone that's on a journey and someone who hasn't started yet is the difference between a wound collector with a victim mindset and a problem solver who wants to move forward. And I was always owning my behavior, like Jocko Willink and Leif Babin talk about in Extreme Ownership. I owned my behavior, so when anything went sideways, I said, what did I do to cause this? And so what happened was I got ranked last. Marine Corps is very good at rating, evaluating, and humbling you when humbling needs to be done. And at my first evaluations by my major, who was my reporting officer, I got ranked 14 out of 14 out of all the second lieutenants in my squadron. And that's a humbling moment because I thought I was great. And I go to my major, who actually knew me from the Naval Academy because he was actually stationed at the Naval Academy as a company officer, and then he gets his job in the Marine Corps was the same as mine, but he was more senior, and so he knew me there. He actually stood with me at one of my academic review boards. My academic prowess at the Naval Academy needed a lot to be desired. I went there to become an astronaut and take aerospace engineering, and I wound up majoring in political science and Marine Corps. So you can see what kind of happened there. But he stood with me at one of my last academic review boards because I had a team with me. I had great relationships. My professors didn't want to fail me because they liked me. Again, that gregarious relationship building guy. But when I hit his squadron, he goes, "What happened to you? You used to be really good." And I was flummoxed. I didn't know. And I said, "All right, sir, I get it. What am I doing wrong?" And he goes, "That's easy. You just need to be a better leader." Without context, those words are really meaningless. They hurt and they hit, but I didn't know what he meant because I thought I was. And I said, "All right, I get it. What specifically do I need to do? I own it. I'm not a good leader." And he goes, "So that's easy too. You need to make it about everyone else but yourself." I did not understand what he said and it hurt because I thought he was saying I was an egocentric maniac. And, but what he was saying was, is that profound moment where that journey began. He's saying you need to focus on being a problem solver for others rather than yourself. Leadership is about being present for others, understanding the needs, challenges, priorities, pain points, friction points of others, and solving their problems to accomplish the mission. Being a resource for their success rather than focusing on your own. And so from that moment on, that gauntlet was laid down, and I spent, from 23 years old where that gauntlet was laid down, figuring that out. And every position I've ever had in my life, and life is leadership. Every moment is leadership, because if you have, the saying in the Marine Corps, if two Marines are together, one's leading and one's following. And all it is it's not leadership by title and position. Mm-hmm. It's someone that understands and can recognize a point that you're trying to move to, whether it's an objective, a mission, a goal, and you have a plan to get there. And since all challenges and problems that we face in life are interpersonal problems, in other words, you can't get there without a relationship, someone's got to be leading, inspiring people around you, not convincing, not manipulating. I don't even use the word persuade or influence. It's about inspiring people to come with you on that journey to get to this point, because they think it's in their best interest to do it with you. And so that's what that foundation started. So yeah, my journey, the professional journey, started when I was 23 years old. Formal, no. Formal happens from humbling moments and recognizing great life repetitions, as I call them. Everyone needs great reps, and I never have a bad day. I don't think anyone has a bad day. People have challenging days. We only remember challenging days. Our brains don't work to remember average. We only recognize and remember really, really awesome or really, really challenging. And so on those challenging days, we remember them. And if you take them and you take those beautiful points and data points that make us better, if you can take time, reflect, get better, imbue that into yourself. I mean, it's what we do in law enforcement all the time. We always do an after-action review. Praise and polish all the stinking time. I am addicted to overanalyzing every single moment of every single day, not for what people did, although I love understanding what makes people do what they do, because when I can understand what makes them do what they do, I can be a better resource for them to accomplish those things. But for me, it always comes down to what did I do that inspired that behavior that was either helpful or not helpful. So wow. That's my long answer.
Wow. No. So... And, I remember when I got my butter bars, and I had, when I was a sergeant, I had my lieutenant called me in for my annual performance appraisal. And this was one of the hardest lessons for me to learn and apply, because being a high drive extrovert, being 100% Irish, born in Ireland, I have all those genetic traits of an Irishman. And in my evaluation, he handed it to me. He goes, "Read it," and then he goes, "What's noted on there as your best strength?" And I said, "You wrote leads by example." And then he goes, what's the next line say? Area that needs improvement. Yeah. What's written there? He goes, lead by example. And he goes, it was Bruce Burt was my lieutenant. He goes, Pat, you know what I'm talking about? And we were friends before I became a cop because I was a prosecutor. I handled his cases. I said, Bruce, I have no idea. He goes, Pat, there's a fine line between leading by example and doing somebody else's job for them. And that was one of the hardest principles I needed to learn and follow, that and you call it being a resource for other people. I was afraid of failure. And if my troops screwed up, then that made me look bad. And it was that ego. And I didn't read this. Well, it wasn't even written when I was a cop. He's written it since, but a great book that also got my attention, along with yours, because we're going to talk about this code of trust. But Ryan Holiday's Ego is the Enemy. And
mine sits right there.
Yeah,
and then Discipline is Destiny, Courage is Calling. I mean, I got all Holiday's books. Yeah, so I'm a huge Stoicism guy, as well as Tao Te Ching, Buddhism. All these Eastern philosophies are understanding, again, humanity and what makes us do what we do, our thought processes, and no, more than anything else, what Stoicism talks about is how to solve problems.
Yeah, and that's what I get. Like, I'm reading. I haven't finished it yet. I'm running out of ink. I'm on my second pen of writing notes as I read your book, The Code of Trust, that an American counterintelligence expert's 5 rules to lead and succeed. And I want to get into those in a minute. But first of all, one of the things that I know you've learned in the leadership arena is you do have to have a little bit of a sense of humor about yourself. And so I want you to share the story, because I would laughed out loud as I was reading it in the book. But tell us about the bicycle messenger and
yeah,
and that humbling. You talk about having humbling moments and whatnot. Tell us about the bicycle messenger and the lesson you learned from that.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. I haven't told that one in a while. That was, oh my gosh. So here I am, fresh out of the Marine Corps, and I was already on my formal leadership journey and education from the Marine Corps. I did 5 years as a Marine Corps officer. I was at Cherry Point, North Carolina, Parris Island, South Carolina, where I really got fine-tuned. Being a series and company commander down there. I was actually one of the writers of a culminating event in the Marine Corps right now called the Crucible. So I got really much better at this. My relationship with my drill instructors was phenomenal. Both leadership and interpersonal wise, I was good, but still working on it, right? Because we're still young. We still have this ego and vanity in here. So here I am. I go through the FBI Academy, where they make you feel like you are the man. and when I hit New York City, it was my first duty station in the FBI after Quantico. Here I am, 29 years old, brand new FBI agent, former Marine Corps officer, on the mean streets of New York, working counterintelligence. Actually, I wasn't even working counterintelligence. I was still on applicants at the time, because you go through a rotation in New York. And so the strangest thing when you are actually a brand new agent for that ego and vanity is the fact that, because in the Marine Corps, they never do this. When you actually go into any kind of combat or you go on exercise, they issue you a weapon that's been used by a million people before you for that exercise, tight controls, and accountability for everything, just the weapon, the ammunition, everything. Then you hand it all back in when you leave. But now in FBI, I got my gun. Matter of fact, that is my weapon. I did 10,000 rounds through that weapon at Quantico as a new agent, and I was top gun in my class. So I had a lot of vanity going here. And so I am brand new agent. And in New York City, if you're in 26 Federal Plaza, where our office is, Lower Manhattan, first of all, it's like to go anywhere, it's 1,000,000 hours to get there. In order to get a spot, because there's no parking spots inside the building except for the supervisors, you had to get into the office probably around 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning if you wanted to be anywhere near the office without like a 10 or 15 block walk. So I was typical new agent, type A, there nice and early, got in there. So I was on a street called Thomas Street. It's perpendicular right off of Broadway, right across from the building. So I'm parked on Thomas Street because I got in like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Saw him. This is probably week 1 or 2 in the office, maybe 3. And so wearing my suit that I got from Goodwill, because you don't have any money as a new agent. So I got my Goodwill suit. I go down in my car, which also my car was hilarious. The car that gave me, it looked like the Bluesmobile. It was a black Chevy Capri, old one. The doors wouldn't even open on it. It was so beat up. They were hiding it from our maintenance people because they're going to survey it and take it off the road. But if you took it off the road, you couldn't get home, right? So you're hiding this car. I had to go in and out through the window because the doors wouldn't open. And so here I am driving one of my first times driving home. And for me, my commute home up to, at the time, I was living in Westchester County before I moved over to Rockland. I had to get from Thomas Street over to the West Side Highway. On any given day, that could take you 5 or 10 minutes or an hour or two, depending on traffic. I had to go through a couple stoplights, then get on the West Side Highway, drive north, blah, 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 on home. So on this one particular day, I get in my car, I start it up, I get to the intersection of Thomas and Church Street right down there, and there's a stoplight. I stop at the stoplight, and whizzing right in front of me is, at the time, this is before electric scooters, electric bikes and everything, back when bike messengers used to pedal a bike with a single chainring bike. And these guys were muscled up because they're riding bikes around New York City all day long delivering packages. Yeah. So this guy whizzes in front of my car. And he typically, at the time, they'd have a big link chain across them so they could lock up their $5 bike. And he's all muscled up, and he's got some sunglasses on. He looks down at me, and he just has a scowl on his face, and he flips me off. I don't know what the hell I did, but I'm like, you know what? I'm an FBI guy. Screw you, buddy. I flipped him off back. It's like, all right, light turns green, go through the light, feeling good, getting over the West Side Highway, and I get up to the next stoplight. I look in my rearview mirror, and he's coming. He had wheeled that bike around. He starts chasing me. I'm like, oh my God. And you hit that panic mode. It's like the first time you do anything, you remember this as a patrol cop. You know, the first time you hit anything, it's like deer in a headlight. What do I do? And you automatically go to your training. And so the only training that goes in my mind is deadly force policy. And I'm like, I remember deadly force policy. Because if you feel your life, again, I'm going to butcher it. It's been a long time. If you feel your life or those around you or something like that are threatened, deadly force is authorized. And so now you start playing that. The one thing I could also do in life is I could play tapes forward in my head. It's like the consequences of action. So I said, oh my God, this is not good. So I could shoot this guy because he looks like he's going to kill me. I said, if I got out of the car, I could draw my weapon, and if it got in a scuffle, what if I shot him? And I'm like, that's not going to look good on the Daily News tomorrow morning. Newspaper, FBI guy shoots bike messenger guy. I said, I can't do that. But then what if I don't, and he catches me? Bike messenger beats FBI agent to within an inch of his life. That's not good either. So I made the only rational decision you could in that moment. I blew the red lights and ran. And I was able to, I blew 2 lights. I got on the West Side Highway, and no kidding, he was blowing them with me. And he actually wheeled that bike onto the West Side Highway, and he was doing the best he could to keep up with me. And I just took off. Never again for the rest of my life have I ever flipped off anyone while driving. Road rage is real, folks. Don't engage it because you don't know the nutter on the other side. And from that day forward, not only did I never flip anyone off again, but I carried mace in my car just in case, and my baton, because you just never know what you're going to deal with. So that was my humbling moment. Oh, and I got a caveat to this one too. There's a second moment in New York when you just get over yourself. So this is new applicants, new agents that I'm on, right, that I'm doing. And so, all right, no longer flipping people off, but I'm still kind of full of myself because I'm a new FBI guy. Part of this rotation in New York City, after you do applicants, you go to the surveillance team, because this is long before cell phones and GPSs and even before the Garmin's a car. You were navigating New York City with a Hagstrom's map. And if your squad had money, you could actually buy the nice flippy chart Hagstrom's maps instead of the foldable ones. Remember these days, Pat? It was crazy, right? How did we even get around? I have no idea. And so can you imagine? I was on a surveillance squad. It was a counterterrorism surveillance squad. And we were tasked to follow a livery driver. Can you imagine trying to follow a livery driver in New York City? Yeah. He went between Newark, LaGuardia, and JFK at least 5 or 6 times a shift. And just so you're trying to figure it all out. And here I'm a new agent trying to figure out my way, Hagstrom's map and all this. Anyway, we're about to go through a change of shift where we're about to take over for another surveillance team. And we had gotten on the radios that our subject that we're going to follow and the team was up near Yankee Stadium. And I'm down in southern Brooklyn because I was coming over from Manhattan, go across the Brooklyn Bridge and trying to make my way up to the Bronx and Yankee Stadium. And of course, in New York, jam-packed, stop dead traffic. And I'm supposed to be there in like 10 minutes. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't make it. I'm important. So I flip on my lights and I get in the shoulder and I start doing the what I call the gong, 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 to get to a surveillance handover. And I'm thinking, and cars are moving over, but I'm still kind of stuck in traffic. And I look to my right as I'm passing one of these cars who's just sitting there placidly, calmly in traffic, not moving. And it's my assistant team leader. And he just looks over at me and he shakes his head. And I was like, huh. I turned off the lights, got behind him, and never did that again either. Because, nothing in life's an emergency. Just get over yourself. And those are my first two humbling moments in New York that really resonated with me, at least on the what not to do scale. There's
man, those are funny, and it's that humor that we look back on, and can laugh now. It wasn't. I remember when I accidentally shot a chair in my office. It was not funny.
No, those are bad.
I was the lieutenant.
It's even worse.
I was the district commander, and the long and short of the story is that we're going to be going on vacation, and I was going to take my off-duty backup gun on vacation. That's the Reader's Digest version. I accidentally shot a chair in my office, but that was on a Thursday. So I still had to come back into work on Friday, starting vacation Friday night. We would drive at night, so the kids would be asleep and not going, are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Right.
For 13-hour drive. And so I come in the next morning, and my office had two doors. One went to the secretary in the public area. One went to the roll call room and locker rooms and sergeants' offices and all that. So I came through that section, and I going to unlock my door, and on the wall, taped to the wall, was a type sign that says, if the lieutenant invites you to have a seat, politely decline and remain standing. And I thought, okay, that's cute. That was funny. So I unlock my office and I go in. I had a nice office, 10 chairs around a conference table, a couple chairs for guests at my desk, my chair. Every chair in the office had a bullseye taped to it, a target bullseye. And I laughed. That's funny. And then on my desk was remember your grandmother had like a recipe box that was clear. Yeah. Well, like that recipe box filled with ashes, and next to it was a typed 3x5 card, because nobody would do it in handwriting, because I figured out who it was.
Right.
And this type card that says, here lie the remains of the chair executed by Lieutenant Welsh, with the date on it. And then next to that was a dart gun with two darts, with another little typed note that said, Lieutenant, this might be safer for you to take on vacation. And I'm having a chuckle, and then it hit me. Who the hell has keys to my office? They could get in there and do all that. But the lesson I learned, and that was the funny part, my ears were still ringing from the day before. And I'm getting a written reprimand, which I, deserved wholeheartedly. But the lesson I learned is have a little bit of sense of humor about when you make non-life-threatening mistakes. You do something stupid. Don't A, beat yourself up about it, and B, if it's your boss or colleague who does the same thing, don't hold it against them. And kind of that's my little segue, if you will, into in your book, The Code of Trust. You talk about some of the 4 rules, or the 5 rules of the trust, and 4 steps. And correct me if I'm wrong, which I hope I'm not. because it'll just devastate me if I am. Uh, One of those rules is don't be judgmental.
Oh yeah.
Leave your ego at the door and don't be judgmental, because those are roadblocks to developing the relationships. And that's where I kind of want to go with the conversation is you end up in counterintelligence. And so you have to develop the skill sets to protect our country and get somebody else to maybe betray their own country because it's in the best interest of our country. How did you, and I know you have some stories, if you have a chance or a moment, share the one about that first time in the diner where you're going to be meeting a confidential informant for the first time, and some of the lessons that senior agent shared with you that helped you grow into the behavioral analysis expert you are today.
Yeah, it is great. Those humbling moments are so profound when we know how to make them profound. Because the I have these things, we have the code of trust and all these things, but really the behaviors that we need to have in order to inspire trust in others are really just as critical. And that is open, honest communication, transparency, and the thing we've been talking about here is vulnerability. Vulnerability is the ability to own our behavior, especially when it goes a little sideways. The first thing you can do when you want to really blow trust, and as a leader, we need trust. If you're going to recruit sources, you need trust. If you're going to inspire bosses to say yes to what it is you want to do, they need to trust you that you're not going to ruin their career when they telling you yes. And so trust is really the paramount of anything. And people don't trust people who pretend or try to have a perfect facade. And so it's not about false humility. It's when something goes sideways, you own it, laugh at yourself, and then the most important thing, here's what I'm going to do to correct it. So that's where you can say, hey, I'm not perfect, but here's what I'm doing because I know I'm not perfect. Here's the partner I'm working with because they can dot the I's and cross the T's because I can't, but I'm an operational guy over here. So it's always about understanding self-awareness, knowing your blind spots and being willing to learn about new blind spots with others, but at the same time balancing that dichotomy of the humility that you need for that self-disclosure with the confidence that, hey, but here's where my skill sets are and I'm going to bring it. And so having that balance of the two is critical. So yeah, this first great source meeting you mentioned, and thanks for refreshing my memory too. There's so many experiences that we go through in life, especially in Code of Trust. I wrote it a little bit ago, and especially with memories from a long time ago. But this was a great one. So this is in my book. His name is Jesse Thorne. He's my Jedi Master, and still his name is John in real life. He's actually a friend of mine. He lives about 10 or 15 miles from me here in Virginia now. We've remained friends all these years because he was the most profound impact. He had the most profound impact on the national security of our country that of anyone I've ever known in my entire life. So as a quick little backstory about what that means, in the world of counterintelligence and the FBI, if you're going to work in a place like New York or Washington, D.C., places where in New York we had the mission to the United Nations and we had the consulates, and in D.C. you have the embassies. So at the capital of a country, you have the embassies, and then cities around the country that are big ones will have consulates. But because the United Nations, we also had the mission to the United Nations. So we had a lot of bad guys. I worked against Russia my entire career, predominantly, although flitzes in China and Middle East and things like that, but predominantly Russia. And so our job was to recruit spies. And if you could, during the course of our careers, if you were part of the team, not even the lead, but if you were part of the team that even got one Russian intelligence officer, and these are typically diplomats under diplomatic cover at the United Nations. That's a very symmetrical thought, it's called. They're actually intelligence officers for either the SVR, which is the old KGB, or the GRU, which is the Russian military intelligence, which is what I worked against. That is like hitting lotto. That rare, that beneficial. So my job every day, as I always say, my job was to buy a lotto ticket. Create opportunities to inspire someone to cooperate with you against their own country. And John, my Jedi Master, during the course of his career, 14 lotto hits in 21, 22 years.
Wow.
Profound. And Pat, I had no idea. That's how he rolled. with the greatest humility. His cubicle in his office, you thought it was vacant. He didn't even have a nameplate on it, not an "I love me" plaque, not anything. His home, we were good friends. We spent 9/11 in New York City together. Matter of fact, behind me is a piece of glass from the World Trade Center. I was there at Ground Zero. I saw 8 people jump from the North Tower before the South Tower was even hit. And so John and I spent a lot of time together, commuting in together, partnering up on everything. And so we were close. And our kids, my kids are a bit younger than his, but they're downstairs. One time we went over for pizza, getting close to John's retirement in 2002. And their kids are downstairs and playing floor hockey on the cement floor, and they're playing with this little glass puck because it slid, as according to my son, when I went down and asked, "What are you doing, Kevin?" He goes, "We're playing floor hockey. This glass puck slides really good on the cement." And I go, "Let me see that." And he goes, "It slides better than the metal puck." And I pick up that glass puck, and it says FBI Director's Award and a year. And I'm like, and John's name. And I go, "Kevin, where the hell did you get this?" And he goes, "Oh, it's a dirty old shoebox in the corner." I go to that dirty old shoebox. I picked up another glass puck from another Director's Award with another year on it. And the metal puck he was talking about said CIA Director's Award on it. That's where I found out about the legend of John and how I actually had to extract from him not only just the 1 or 2 recruitments I knew about, but the 14 others that he'll never say he was the point man, but he was what I call the single point of success for every single one. Because again, the humility, his ego was in a box. And so when you can equate on this formal leadership training, because when you're going to inspire someone to take an action, like a Russian intelligence officer to come over to the good guys, from our context, good guys, from his context, maybe, that's leadership, because you have a destination you want to walk to, and you got to think in terms of what can I do to inspire this person to walk on this journey with me to this point. And John's ability to do that, because of his humility in making it all about the other person, came down to, long intro to this story. My first time with John, if you sat around the office and you didn't bother the senior guys for a couple months, they may offer you the opportunity for some wisdom. And I have no idea how I kept my mouth shut, because as you can tell here, I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut. I'm a storyteller. I'm gregarious and outgoing, but I've had humbling moments. And so I must have done enough, just enough to have John say, "Hey, young guy, Robin, I'm about to go meet a source of ours. Why don't you come along?" I'm like, "All right, let's go. Let's go meet a Russian intelligence source. This is a guy that's going to get us access to the bad guys and tell us all about the Russian spies." And so all he said to me before he went to this nice restaurant is on the Upper West Side. It's Kennedy's was the name of it, and it's no longer there. It's right across from where the Intrepid Air and Space Museum is on the aircraft carrier, right on like 42nd, 44th Street. And we met at Kennedy's, back booth, nice dark place where we went to. And before the guy came in, he said, "Here's what I want you to do, Robin." I go, "Because yeah, what do I need to do?" He goes, "I need you to shut up." He said, "Just follow my lead." I'm like, "Okay, I can do that. I can shut up." And I'm crossing my fingers. And so we get there ahead of time. We sit down, and then in walks the source. And as he sits down, first thing John says, "Hey, so tell me about your drive over from Jersey. Rough traffic, not traffic. Could you go through the Lincoln Tunnel or Holland Tunnel?" And so the guy talks about his traffic. And now I'm ready. Then I'm chomping at the bit. I'm wanting to talk. Oh, I got questions I want to ask. And I'm about to say something. John goes, "Mm." And he goes, "So, Sean, what's going on with your wife and kids?" Because what he said, it goes before. What he had told me before he went in there, he goes, he's having some challenges at home because he's going through a pretty nasty divorce right now. And so when John said, "Tell me about what's going on at home. Tell me about the wife and kids," the guy, his face kind of melted. He got a little sadder, but he was very disclosing. He's telling John about how, they're going through a child custody issue right now, and it's kind of ugly, but he's hoping that he can at least get some time on weekends to see his kids. He's working on his PhD. He's got all these things going on in his life. And I'm like thinking to myself, looking at my watch, "Dude, are we going to talk about Russian spies?" And meanwhile, John was just kept threading the conversation, being what I call actively curious. Not curious about what John wanted to know. He's curious about what this guy wanted to share. Because Sean was talking about this, and John would follow up, "Tell me more." Sean was talking about this. John would follow up and validate with a head nod, smile, "Tell me more." And then after probably 20 or 30 minutes, maybe 40, of talking about life, challenges, school, kids, divorces, attorneys. Sean looks at John and says, John, man, what can I do for you? Anything for you, man. And I'm like, oh my God, that was easy. This guy just volunteered to do whatever we wanted. And we didn't ask one question except what he wanted to talk about. So is that journey of learning about, and this is where part of that formal education is, like me always analyzing, because I all those years ago when I was 23 years old, I was analyzing what was I not doing in that moment as a new leader in the Marine Corps. I wasn't solving other people's problems. I wasn't understanding their challenges, their priorities, their pain points, their friction points. I wasn't thinking about how to make their career successful. I was more focused on how to make my career successful. And so here's John working with a potential confidential human source, not signed up yet, and I kind of gave a misnomer there. We're thinking about getting this guy signed up, about how can we inspire him to want to help us. And so how did John do it? He was listening to this guy's challenges, priorities, pain points, and friction points in life, critical life challenges, not judging any of them. Not that he necessarily agreed with them, but validating through that act of curiosity that inspired him to want to reciprocate this beautiful gift that John gave him of that non-judgmental act of curiosity and validation that he wanted to volunteer to help in reciprocity. So it was me understanding these 4 keys of communication John was doing very, very well. And that's why I love putting labels and meanings to behaviors that we see around us all the time, but not quite sure what exactly is going on. When someone says, oh, they're just charismatic, what exactly is that? People just naturally light up when they walk around the corner, when they see a cell phone come up. What exactly are they doing? And here's what they are. They're seeking the thoughts and opinions of others instead of going on and on and on about what they think. 2, they're talking about the challenges, priorities, pain points, and friction points of others instead of lamenting all the things that are going wrong in their lives. 3, we've been talking about nonstop, that non-judgmental active curiosity. When you work inside the world of counterintelligence and anywhere in life, I had to make relationships with absolutely everyone. Our mantra was assess everyone as a potential source and build relationships with absolutely everyone, because you never know who you might need. I mean, so Pat, I do a lot with law enforcement still too. And someone asked me, I was on a panel in New York with a bunch of NYPD guys, and they asked me, so Robin, when crap hits the fan, if you're in a large group of people, what's the first thing you are doing when chaos hits? I said, that's easy. I'm looking for the guy who's picking up a phone, because that guy who's picking up a phone has a relationship with someone who knows how to work this problem. And NYPD guys, cops that have reps that understand it comes down to solving problems with the relationships they can pick up and call upon, because they have a trust bank and a reservoir that's full with absolutely everyone because they proactively were problem solvers in their lives. That's who you put on your team. And so that's what you do. And so that's that non-judgmental active validation, because if you knocked on a door, because if a conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, the FBI's job domestically is to interview absolutely everyone from that country that's here now, try to gain ground truth, try to build relationships, try to build an intelligence network to be passed up to policymakers and decision makers. And so if you knock on someone's door, judging who they are, judging their ethnicity, judging their background, judging how they're rolling, their generation, their choices, anything, shields up, never talking to you, and you fail at your job. So you get a lot of reps, and it was hard initially in my life to be non-judgmental, because I'm an extrovert. I was born in New York City, grew up just north of New York City, and I got this very beautiful, snarky mouth that can eviscerate people, with a lot of sarcasm, a lot of snark, and a lot of judging. That got flushed out of me so many years ago, because when you replace that with curiosity about things that are different, that's when the world comes together. I mean, same thing, when you inspire someone to confess, it's not because you agree with them. It's because you're the only person that wants to hear the story that led them down the road to make the decisions they did, and you did so without judging it.
Yeah.
And inspired them to share with you because they just want to tell their side so they can be understood, not agreed with, understood.
Yeah.
And so that's where that third step in. And finally, you empower people with choices, because when you empower people with choices, they feel safe, because that is the bedrock of us as human beings. Genetically and biologically, all of us are extremely predictable. We're always going to act in what we think is our best interest in terms of our safety, security, and prosperity from our point of view. All you have to do is figure out what that other person's point of view is and what they think is in their best interest. They're now going to do that. And now if you become a resource for them achieving those things and empower them with choice about going with your offers, and you can inspire them to trust you with that open, honest communication, that transparency, and that vulnerability, why wouldn't they include you in their lives? That's what John was doing in that moment. Think about all the things we talked about. He was seeking Sean's thoughts and opinions, talking about his priorities, challenges, and pain points, validating all of them non-judgmentally, and empowering them with choice. Hell, he didn't get into the realm of empowering with choice, not offering the opportunity to do something patriotic. The guy volunteered before he even had an opportunity because he was rocking all those other things.
So, I'm running out. I'm taking notes as we're going. And
I know I flood you with words, man. I apologize.
No. It's and I'd written down. Oh, I want to bring up. You were talking about labeling, and then you hit it right there at the end. Is between you and Chris Voss, I've learned so much about communication and interacting with people, and I literally know what I mean when I got SSPC written down with a big star by it: safety, security, prosperity, and control. And that how a lot of cops are just intuitive thinkers, not even just not in law enforcement. You have the visionaries in the entrepreneurial world, and they have a lot of these skills. And if you ask them, hey, how do you do that? And they go, I don't know, I just do it. They haven't put labels to it, or it, like you say, a natural born leader, but they're so rapidly processing information and what you call reps. They know what works and what doesn't. And I think one of the last one, because you actually use the word safety, security, and prosperity, and then that whole idea of control, that what you called the choices,
empower with choice.
Yeah, but here's what we failed to do is that we don't even think of ourselves in those same perceptions that we do of other people. Like, you're an other person building relationships, and you want to identify, what are their pain points: safety, security, prosperity, control. And then we need to learn to do that same self-analysis with ourselves so that we can develop that genuine humility you're talking about. That am I doing or saying things for my own safety, security, prosperity, and control, and how is that going to negatively impact somebody else? Just real quick, because as you're talking, and I tell that it happens in every episode I do, is I'm the Irish setter in the backyard, and there goes a squirrel. And off I go, because I just like, oh, man. And something, as you were sharing those 4 rules and whatnot, and this is over 40 years ago, as I traffic stopped a guy for rolling a stop sign at 3 o'clock in the morning, and high drug area, all that stuff. And so I get out of the car. I asked him to step out. He's an older guy. I mean, he was older than me, and I was in my early 30s, and he was probably in his early 40s, maybe ish. And I have him step out of the car, and I'm talking to him, and I cheated. I parked up on a sidewalk and had a little cubby hole, and I'm watching this stop sign. Mm-hmm. And it goes from one housing project, comes down the hill, stop sign, and then you go up the other side to another housing project. So I'm looking for gangbangers, dope, and guns. And so I get this guy out of his car, and I see in the back seat of his car a whole bunch of, this was March, a whole bunch of ball caps for the Final Four teams. And they still had price tags on them. And I'm talking like 20, 25 of these things. And I'm like, it's a chicken turd traffic violation. But I just started talking to him, about, hey, who you pulling for, and talking about anything other than the traffic violation.
Right.
And then I said to him, and I had my own business cards. The city didn't give them to us. I made my own.
Yeah, me too.
And I said, hey, look at one of these young bucks, cops, the 20-somethings, fresh out of the academy, they'd take all those hats and put them in the property room because they're stolen and I know they're stolen. But, I'm not that kind of cop. I couldn't prove it anyway. I'd be doing it just to screw with you. So you might want to keep those in your trunk and stop at stop signs. And then I handed him a card. And I said, if you ever need a friend, give me a holler. I'm telling you, he turned into my golden goose of a confidential source. He gave me information on somebody that I ended up getting a letter of commendation from Louis Freeh himself, because it led back to a Jamaican posse in New York City, and you guys in the DEA did your thing. But you never know, and and that was work kind of stuff. But 20 years into my career, and this guy, I mean, he was on the books. I got him signed up when I eventually went into narcotics, formally signed up and all that stuff. But this guy calls me one day and says, hey, Welsh, I need to meet you. I need to turn my grandson into you for a homicide that he was involved in another jurisdiction, but you're the only cop I trust.
Right.
And that's the thing about relationship building, that if you do it not with the intent for your own success, but it's the right thing to do, and you're doing those things at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons, then that success, whatever that gets defined as, will come on its own. And
100%.
And reading your stuff, and I'm an avid fan of Ryan Holiday, Chris Voss, some other folks, John Maxwell, is when you make those types of things like you're talking, the 5 rules and the 4 steps and all that, it becomes your second nature. And you talk about this is not manipulation.
100%.
So some of the things, take it outside of the work world, the law enforcement work world, and how does some of these same principles apply in the business world, or even just in your own personal life, your family life, your faith life, your community life? What are some of the things that you've seen work? Because hey, that's who I am.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Perfect, Pat. And what a great example too of you build relationships with everyone you have an opportunity to, and you're probably the only person in that guy's life that actually gave him a break that he didn't have to hide from. He didn't have to. And here's because part of this is reframing our context as how we view other human beings.
Mm-hmm.
When I was running the behavior team, we would outlaw, I won't say we as a team would outlaw words like using the word like subject of an investigation. No, that's a human being. If you use the word subject, you're going to be dehumanizing, you're going to be objectifying someone. And any teeny little leakage about that towards them is going to come out verbally, non-verbally in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And no one likes that. We're going to talk to a human being and we're going to see if we can solve problems. And so every little thing I'm doing like that of every minute of the day. And so applying it to every aspect of life is my kids, my neighbors, absolutely everyone, because when you approach every individual as just someone that you just have deep curiosity about, and you're going to have this open, honest communication, this transparency, and this vulnerability, and you're going to be a problem solver, it just starts flowing from there. So, gosh, when don't I use it? It is transparent and everything, because I probably work the most frequently with my kids, especially my son, 26-year-old Marine Corps fighter pilot. And to get where he's gotten in life came with a lot of challenges along the way. And my daughter's getting married this weekend, and same thing with her. She's an amazing labor and delivery nurse. And we just face every single situation with, every time something goes sideways, the first question I ask is, Who do we need to talk to? Who do we need to call? And who do we need a relationship with that we don't have already? And then what can we do to inspire them to want to be on this road with us and become a resource for us? In order to do that, we always have to think in terms of offering nothing but grace to people. Never, and you didn't do this, and you didn't do this, which meant it worked well. You didn't shame the individual that you did a car stop. And the worst thing you can do with any individual is shame them, show them their secrets place, because as law enforcement, everyone's got secret place, man. Everyone's hiding something because I'm sorry. The mindset I wanted to make sure I hit upon is avoiding that negative context towards other human beings. That's that non-judgmental part. Even so, like I'm in the middle of putting together a class, and someone wants me to talk about deception detection. I don't do it. First of all, if you think you can pick out deception, if you're the best in the world, you'll be about 50%. Although I've recently found out I have friends, former Secret Service, Brad Baylor is his name. Secret Service is actually probably up around 80 or 90% actually accuracy with detecting deception, because it's what they do is reading what I call wobbles in people's behavior, and they can assess what that wobble means. But in general, people at the best are only 50%. But I don't like that word deception, because if I'm trying to figure out what you're deceiving me on, is that negative or positive? I'm assuming something negative from you. But here's what's actually going on. No one's ever trying to deceive you. People might be trying to not share their agenda with you because they're afraid to. They're fearful of it. They have shame about it. They have rules and regulations that they can't. So I never even think of words or things of people are trying to deceive me. They may have a hidden agenda. And my job is, how can I inspire you to feel safe enough to share that agenda? So when we're interacting with a human being and we get a wobble, as I call it in this area, in other words, we can see that we have a good, healthy relationship in this lane, this lane, this lane, but we got a little bit of a wobble right here. In other words, there's deviations in their baseline from their verbals, their nonverbals, their tempo, their interaction. We got a little bit of a wobble. Why? There's an agenda that they don't feel safe in sharing.
Yeah.
What can I do, owning my behavior, to inspire them to feel safe with me? Just like you did on that car stop. You inspired him to feel safe with you so he can feel safe to be transparent. In other words, no more hidden agendas. So much so that he didn't hide it from you. So applying this to everyday life, think when wouldn't you apply this to everything in life? Always interact with someone, first of all, free of your own agenda. Because if you want to, everyone always saying you just need to be present. You need to be organic with your relationships. Yeah. What does that actually mean? Because we've already said, I love placing labels and meanings on things, because when you do, you can recognize it. I call it the new car effect. When you buy a new car, you don't have to, whatever make and model it is, all of a sudden you start seeing it on the road everywhere. Because it has label and meaning. I have a green Tundra, and I can tell you, I don't see many green Tundras, not many of us that have green Tundras, but I see Tundras everywhere. Has label and meaning. So when we give a behavior a label and meaning, you can start seeing it everywhere. And so that's what we do in these situations. You give labels and meanings to the behaviors that you're trying to recognize to be that resource for others.
Yeah. And that's almost biblical in a way, that whatever you're looking for, you'll always find more of it. And if you
Robert Greene, Laws of Human Nature.
Yeah, if you have that mindset that if you're to be non-judgmental, and I learned this in when interacting with people with disabilities from a law enforcement standpoint, is words have meaning and connotations and denotations and all that kind of stuff. And if you go, oh yeah, that guy's autistic, that carries with it some sort of judgment, that you've made a judgment about that person, as opposed to, well, he's a person with autism. And so the emphasis is he's a human being who has autism. And that takes, and they may be uncomfortable, whatever it is. He's dyslexic. So that means he's stupid. I mean, that's the message delivered may not be the message received. So that's what I hear you saying. And the one thing I love at the Irish setter took off across the backyard was, once I learned everybody lies to the police for one of three reasons. They did it, they know who did it, or they're just supposed to lie. If you go into your interaction with, I know they're going to lie to me. Or my job is kind of, okay, is it because they did it? They know who did it, or they're just lying because they don't want to be a snitch. I tell people it's the same reason why your kids lie to you.
They don't
They
feel
did it.
safe.
They know who did it, or they're just supposed to lie to mom and dad. So get over yourself about being offended that they're lying to you.
Has
That
nothing to do with you.
Yeah, I know it doesn't, but that is so hard for us because we lie to and people. I've had cops. I go, oh come on, you lie to the police, and they're like, no, I don't. Yeah, you ever been stopped by a state trooper and you're off duty? And a state trooper goes, do you know why I stopped you? Oh, no, officer, I don't. Liar. You were speeding, or all those. All, it's that safety, security, prosperity, and control. We don't want to lose it, so
Right.
yeah, we tell a fib or outright lie or try to manipulate others and all those kinds of things. That just like I'm just like got all sorts of notes going here. Um, so if you were to take a young person, late teens, early 20s in today's generation, and I don't remember which generation we're on now. If I think we've exhausted the alphabet. Um,
Z.
I don't know what we're on now.
X, Y,
But
Z. I don't know.
what would be one of your cardinal rules that have withstood the test of time and centuries that a young person needs to hear and start believing in now, rather than, hey, when they're 40 or 50, they go, oh man, I had this aha moment. I wish I would have known this when I was 20.
Probably also part of that is have the energy to engage. You have to engage in order to do anything, right? That's going to be a cardinal across. Have a positive aspect about yourself. See the world in a positive light. Not always. We have total control about how we see everything. That's our context. It's the unique thing about being a human being is we have total control about how we perceive reality. So that's the first first thing. One sec. But the bedrock, most important thing. This goes back right to the beginning, so a nice loop back to the beginning. That is the thing that I had no idea about when I was 20 years old. I had so many life reps of solving my own problems. So my advice to myself back then or anyone else, instead of focusing on what you need to do in order to give yourself a title, a position, accolades, and success, become that person for someone else. What can you do to be a problem solver in someone else's life? Understand their challenges, their priorities, their pain points. Be the person that people want to have around because you are a problem solver for them, for others. Because what happens is when you're this kind of individual, you're going to be the person everyone wants. And when you're the person everyone wants, you can now maneuver in any direction you want to maneuver in because everyone wants you. And here's the other part of that I think is really critical. When you can maneuver in any direction you want to because you're the problem solver for everyone, a lot of people are looking for the perfect job of the thing they're going to do. And a lot of times they want to bounce around because they're never completely satisfied with the thing they're looking for. People often miss the most important thing that makes getting up every day and going to do a repetition in life. And I won't even call it work because when you find the right rep, it's not work. It's the culture in which it is. Follow healthy people with healthy relationships. That's where you get your work. That's where you get your life reps. That's where you enjoy getting up every single minute and go on what I call the road of mastery. The road of mastery is when you fall, and this goes to Stoicism, you fall in love with the process every single day. You love the reps you're getting. And when you're the problem solver for others, you understand their challenges, their priorities, their pain points, and you bring your resources to bear for their success, the reciprocity that you can now have in your trust bank that you can make withdrawals from whenever you need to is overflowing. All you have to do is mention a wobble in your life, a challenge or pain point, and when your trust bank is full with others, you'll be beating down the door to help you. because they're so wanting to reciprocate the kindness and grace you've given others. And you can maneuver in any direction you want. And the direction you want to maneuver in is follow the healthy relationships. That will bring you the greatest joy. Toxic cultures, you can like flipping that switch more than any other switch in the world. But you know what? If it's a toxic, crazy culture, you're going to hate every minute of it. You're going to hate flipping that switch more than anything else in the world. Go with healthy people. Follow them. Hold on tight and be that person for others as well.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. And for the parents out there that are listening, I know you've heard this advice, and what Robin just shared was a lesson I learned. We had 5 kids. I learned it when our kids were young. This is a fundamental rule that whoever you hang out with, that's what you're going to become. So if your kids are hanging out with little hoodlums and wannabe gangsters or whatever, your kid's going to turn into that. And it's the same, and that same principle is true for us as adults. Who do you surround yourself with? That's what you're going to become. And you can see it in your own life. When you look at toxic relationships you've had or workplaces, is you safety, security, prosperity, and control. It's like that toxic personality, person, whatever is threatening those. You're going to try and resolve that, and you may not resolve it in a healthy way. So, like Robin says, surround yourself with a culture of people that I advocate, because I close every show with this, is surround yourself with people that are doing the right things at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons, because that's who you expect yourself to be. And that's culture. What is expected and accepted way of thinking, talking, and acting in your world, that's your culture. So don't compromise on having the best. So that's my little soapbox.
I'm with
story,
you. And what
story
happens
for
is
the day.
when you get life reps of recognizing crazy, you see it a million miles away, man. I have nothing but people say, how do you work on this problem with this person? Like me personally, I said, I don't have them. How can you not have problems, interpersonal problems with people? I said, easy. I see them a million miles away, and I just don't go near it. I don't do nutters. I'm a co-host on a true crime show, and I call them nutters, man. Nutters are just nuts. They'll suck you into their world because they're going to gain their dopamine hits in their brain from sucking you into their world, and then you enter the world of chaos. Dude, you don't have to do that crap. Just stay away from chaos. Chaos is it's unhealthy, and it propagates itself. So my final thought on this is, we came in the world with nothing. We leave with absolutely nothing, not a title, not an accolade or anything. But we can do the greatest thing we can do in this world is leave a legacy of how to have strong, healthy, strong relationships. If you can pass that on to at least 2 other people, then the world will be on a continual course for having healthier, strong relationships. Break the toxic cycles of those people around you by demonstrating being that role model you spoke of healthy, strong relationships, and it's a much easier place to be.
Yeah, which triggers. And we're going to wrap it up with this. You just the Irish setter just took off again. Two quotes that have impacted me at different times in my life, and one of them, I learned this one decades and decades ago, is never argue with an idiot. They will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience.
Yes, I love that too. Yeah.
That's one. And then this other one I just learned within the last 2 years, and it came from a 15-year-old who's now a saint in the Catholic Church. He passed away in 2006 at the age of 15 years old, born 1991, died of leukemia. His name's Carlos Acutis. St. Carlo Acutis. And this struck me. This is one of his quotes. We're all born unique and gifted, but sadly, many of us die a photocopy of somebody or something else. And I think that's what you're talking about, is you have these gifts and this uniqueness, and don't settle for being a phony or a nutter that people can see coming, 1,000 miles away. Be
Yeah.
genuine, and it's not about you. It's about everybody else that you see and impact every single day of your life. And you're going to have you'll get to heaven and you're going to get that good and faithful servant accolades from your creator. So, Robin, man, what a blast having you on the show, man. I first saw you, man, it's probably about a year and a half ago is when I first got introduced to you when you were on Metal Men
Oh yeah.
as a guest. And before you were done talking, I had already jumped on Amazon and started ordering your books, and then finally I got the nerve up, I don't know, just a couple months ago to blindly reach out to you and say, "Hey,
I'm the easiest person to talk to."
yeah." And so thank you for sharing your time, talent, and treasures with us, and being a guest to our audience. Man, if this message resonated with you, share it with somebody else that needs to hear it. And Robin, how can people reach out to you and maybe have you that you do keynotes, you do training and other stuff? How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, it's really easy. I'm on all social medias as always. But robindreeke.com, ROBINDREEKE.com. That's easy, one-stop shop. I got 4 books out. I actually just recently republished my first self-published is now with my author. It's Not All About Me, which is a good theme for today. Yeah, everything me is there. And also, if you're into true crime at all, if you're watching Pat's show, I am the co-host on a show, daily show. We go live every day called Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. We do deep dives on lots of multiple angles, especially my behavior angle. But most importantly, as Pat was saying, he puts a lot of time and energy and effort into these shows, bringing on great guests that can benefit you all in every aspect of your life. So make sure you hit like, subscribe, and share it with anyone else you think could benefit from his beautiful wisdom and words he brings to you.
Well, Robin, thank you for the attaboy. That's awesome, and I know it's genuinely meant, and it's great. I just got to ask you one question:
Sure.
Is the Cage behavioral science unit in the basement there at Quantico, is it still there when the doors open? Hannibal Lecter,
Good
or
question.
did they take that away?
When I was there, it was still there, but right around the time I retired, they're consolidating all the behavioral units inside the FBI. I think so. I could go on and on about all the behavior inside the FBI. So there's main entities of behavior. So John Douglas, the grandfather of all things behavioral, it started in the basement of Quantico, and it started with what's called the Behavioral Science Unit, the BSU. Right. And yes, they have the Hannibal Lecter cage there with a dummy of him down there and everything. Matter of fact, Jana Monroe is the first female profiler. Her book came out, Heart of Darkness, and she was actually down there as well. Really profound, impactful stuff. But from there, the BSU that's the BSU. Then the BAU started, the Behavioral Analysis Units, all these divisions. My group, the Behavioral Analysis Program. But yeah, last I saw it was, but since they consolidated everything, they may have moved it offsite. Not sure. I'd be hard pressed to think they got rid of it, though. They probably still got it.
I just thought it was funny that the doors open and Clarice, come closer. But and I never met John Douglas. I wish I would have. But
he lives near me apparently, and here in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Well, his partner I've had dinner with and picked his brain when he was alive. But Bob Ressler, and just fascinating individuals to have that depth of encounters with people. I think between John and Bob, they interviewed every living serial killer that was in custody. Just great assets to the law enforcement world. Well, Robin, again, thank you, man, so much for being here. To our audience, thank you. Because of you, we're now in 67 countries on 6 continents, and it's all because of your commitment to be a warrior servant leader in your personal and professional lives. So thank you for being a part of the community. And as always, I end every show is go out there and strive to do the right things at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons. because that's what a warrior servant leader does every day, every time. Love you all. See you next week.